Welcome to the Win, Make, a Give podcast. My name is Chad Hyams, and I get the pleasure today of interviewing a winner. That's right. I want you to meet a winner, and his name is JP. We're going to have JP introduce himself a little more to you, but heck, if you're watching the video of this, you just see that beard and you know this guy's a winner. You know this guy's a winner, and we're having some fun getting ready for this interview and this opportunity, and I can't wait to talk about it. So we are talking about the traits of a winner. And today we have the pleasure of discussing being patiently impatient with probably one of the industries, I say it's an industry, but one of the industries that understands being patiently impatient more than any other industry. And that's the military, because nobody else teaches you to hurry up and wait. And there's patiently impatient. JP, welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good, Chad. Thanks for having me.
We're going to have so much fun on this one for a few reasons. Just before we started recording, as you said, your chair broke. You almost up and ended the whole desk over there. Me, about 30 seconds before the interview, I got a text from Bob that said, can't make it. Something came up. So it's going to be just us. I had to do a whole restart on the computer. We're just going to have a ton of fun. I think as we go through this, that energy is going to carry through. Yeah, JP, do us a favor. Introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, so I'm JP Albert. I served 23 years in the United States Army. Inside those 23 years, I've done a lot of cool things, met a lot of great people. I was born and raised in West Tennessee, right outside Memphis. And during that time frame, you know, I'm a 78 baby, so a great model, streamlined. In that time, I wasn't really born into anything. It was basically kind of worked my way through life. Didn't have a dad in the picture. Didn't have a mother in the beginning. You know, in the beginning, she was there. Had a grandmother who was a nurse. And that's pretty much the only education I saw at a level of success. She was an in-home provider for the elderly. And she was my stable in life at an early age. I saw her struggle through a lot of things. God bless my mother, but she was a brilliant lady. Just I don't think times were different. She was out doing her thing, and there's alcohol involved, drugs involved, a lot of the misfortunes. And I think a lot of the people y'all interview in these senses, not everybody, but we all come from that same kind of background.
It does sound like you have a challenging background here, JP, that I didn't even know about before we got into this call today. So you're telling us for the beginning of life, dad wasn't in the picture. Mom had challenges, and grandma was really the one who helped raise JP.
Yeah, and she did a heck of a job at it when I was there. I mean, times got so hard at a young age. I remember having a recurring dream when I was younger. If anybody can remember the movie Lassie or the TV show Lassie.
Oh, sure. Timmy's down the well. We all know Lassie. Yeah.
And I was kind of taken out of the picture thanks to my grandmother, through abuse that was going on in the house with guys in and out of my life. And I spent a small portion in kind of a foster home. And some people might look at that and be like, man, that's horrible. That's the worst thing ever. But it's not like she was just like taking me out of the picture. She brought me back. My grandmother brought me back and kind of settled everything down. Did the adulting, got everything back online, kind of refocused it, almost like a tactical pause. We took a tactical pause early in my life to kind of try to help my mother out and refocus things in the right path. Came back, spent a lot of time with her at one of the homes that she worked regularly. One was mentally challenged. One of the gentlemen was older. And then there was an older lady. So there's three people living in the house, to where ultimately she would stay there at night Most of the time I stayed with her. And, you know, I was in kindergarten, first grade. So this was a long time ago. And she ultimately, you know, had a stroke in that house. So that took her out of the picture. And when that pillar, when that oak is taken away, you know, kids will play.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
here we go again, back down that same path. Same guys came back in the picture. And I'm kind of giving a brief synopsis of it. Kind of like you had a seal on, and he was talking about his, you know, learning disabilities and things he went through. Mine were hard knocks learning disabilities. You know, one of the memories was trying to figure out gas mileage, going to flea markets, because that's the income we had. We would sell knives at a flea market. And if I couldn't get it right, you know, I got the working end of the attitude. So I had a had a learning disability at a young age. Was kind of angry at authority because authority wasn't what it should have been in my life.
Yeah. JP, that's amazing stuff right there that you're telling us. I mean, right there, I'm hearing so many things. How far, short answer, how far did you go education? I mean, did you stick with this education systems through high school?
Yeah, I've got a high school degree and college.
Okay.
So
So high school degree and some college, and authority here in your life is all over the place, non-existent in many cases, changing faces on a regular basis and all of that. And then you end up in the industry that is as authoritative as can be, as many rules as possible. You got to tell us, what's the story that took you from hard knock life to becoming 23 years in the military? Thank you for your service. And we'll dive into that obviously in a little bit. But what's the story that takes you from being this guy who could have been, you know, behind bars from the way you're starting to tell the story to a guy who ends up, you know, protecting the rest of this country?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Memphis, in that area, in Jackson, Tennessee, and Memphis, and I was in a gang at a young age. I was the only white guy in the gang, and I hung out across Ellis tracks in Milan, Tennessee. So one day I was standing there, and this is kind of a funny thing. The guy that I referred to, he's a Vietnam vet. So, you know, unlike what we have now, we have a lot of resources that help us.
Sure.
If you're willing to use those resources.
Right.
He didn't. So there were times when he would flip out. And I was standing in my bedroom one day, and it might have been over making my bed or something was in the floor. And I was like, I'll never join the military. Ever.
Sure.
Because your example is horrible.
Okay.
Graduated high school. Prior to graduating, my mother had left. I came home from a football game. I played sports all through school. And those were kind of the basic, you know, mentors in my life that kept me going. Were the coaches, had some really good coaches. Dan Bland played for the 49ers, ended up in small town Milan, Tennessee. He came and took me out of our duplex, put me in my aunt's house, right back into a toxic situation with alcohol and things like that. Got me on the right track, kept that backbone strong, I guess. In the NCO Corps, you know, we're the backbone of the Army. Didn't know that at the time, but my backbone was being built.
Okay.
And I ended up breaking my neck, semi-break in my neck in a ball game. So college was out of the question of that nature. Graduated as an adopted kid.
Okay.
My aunt had passed away, and here I am again on my own. Because there's been several times, there's months that have gone by that I was living on my own. Friends would tell somebody, and then somebody of authority would find out, and then they would come in and take me. And the Hazelwoods, they had adopted me kind of, you know, under the table, you know, sophomore in high school, needs to play state. I'm friends with their son, friends with all of them, grew up with them. And, kind of did that thing, graduated high school, worked at Walmart, worked at Sam's Club.
So it wasn't right from high school right into the military. There was some jobs in there for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Hazelwood,
when does the military come along?
When the Hazelwoods adopted me, they have Don Hazelwood has a cousin, David Jarrett, and he was in the Tennessee National Guard. And this is probably the most influential person in my life. He brought me aside, said, "Hey, I'm in the Tennessee National Guard. Would you like to come out and hang out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I went, and we were engineers.
Okay.
And I was like, "Hey, it's something to do. Stay out of trouble." I like David, and I started out in the Tennessee National Guard. Soon realized that I did like this.
Okay.
But it wasn't enough.
What was it you were liking about it? Was it the camaraderie? Was it the group? Was it the structure? Was it the authority? What was it at the time, JP, that you were saying, you know what? I do like this. I had a bad example in the past, but now I'm seeing it differently.
The authority.
Okay.
I mean, honest to God, it was the authority, the structure that was always there. I mean, right out of training, I went to Honduras, and we were in Honduras for a while, where I learned about sling loading, where you take aircraft, fly them in, pick up other things off the ground, whether it be fuel blivets, equipment. It's just a quick way to get things from place A to place B without having to drive them in.
Okay.
And I fell in love with that. It was great. And sat on a hilltop with a couple of guys that had just gotten out of the Army and had come back home to join the Guard. And we sat there and talked, and they explained it to me. And I was like, "Man, I can't do the Guard. I've got to go do what y'all did." It wasn't about going to like Germany or foreign lands or anything like that, but it was the structure, the authority, the camaraderie, things that I kind of lacked in my life.
Sure. And things that the military are big on, of course, and things that actually can help a lot of us succeed in life, even when we want to fight them and don't think they're important.
Yeah.
But that structure, that camaraderie and authority, which has us in line. So tell us about, where are you in life right now? I mean, how old are you when you say, this is the thing for me, I'm going to go make this happen?
I think I'm about 19, 18 or 19.
All right. Yeah. So right around that troublemaking years, you put yourself into a structure situation and you decide the Army.
Go through the paperwork to get released from the state of Tennessee National Guard and to go active. Got orders to go to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
Which was supposed to be reintegration reception. The guy who had written the book, Who Was Schools? And it just basically gives an explanation on Pathfinder, Ranger, Jump School, Jump Master School, all the big schools.
All the schools within the military, for those of us who didn't have the chance to understand how they've got different categories in there. Okay.
Right. And he was on his way out as a senior enlisted guy, non-commissioned officer. So he was kind of like, I'm retiring. I'm doing this small thing of reception. And somehow I ended up back in basic and AIT again. Okay. And they had slotted me to go 11 Bravo.
Which means what to those of us listening? What's 11 Bravo?
Infantry school.
Okay, got it.
So I get almost 3/4 of the way through infantry school, and they're like, JP Albert, start calling my name, and I run over, and they were like, "You're not supposed to be here." I was like, "Okay." You're supposed to be at your unit, and they're asking about you. So they put me on a truck. I don't finish the school, and show up in my unit, which I started out as in a 12 Bravo unit, which is a combat engineer. They do breaching on battlefields. They have a linear crew, which is like your construction workers that you would see on every day on the street, building roads, building flight lines, things of that nature.
Okay.
And then I become a mechanic, which is kind of strange. So I show up to my unit, and the first day, there's these guys walking around, and I had a warrant officer, which is you have in the ranks of the Army, you have like your enlisted guys, which is what I was, and then you have your warrant officers, which is kind of an in between tech guy. They're the technical guys when the NCOs need help with stuff. And then you have your officers, which, they're the ones that are usually posed in command with all the big answers, big brain ideas. And he's got a tab. My warrant officer, Chief Kelly, has a Ranger tab. And he's got these two buddies when he was
that's the thing on his shoulder there, you're telling me, where it says Ranger.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
He was in the regiment for a while and had some friends, and they would come over and ask him questions and stuff and hang out with him. And I was like, "Who are those guys, Chief?" And he was like, tell me their names, introduce me to them. And I was like, "Well, I'm going to do what you guys do." Had no clue what they did. I just knew they walked different, looked different, and acted different.
Okay. So how long have you been in the military at this point where you're meeting these guys and understanding there's something different about a Ranger? How long have you been in now?
Probably 6 months because of my
oops. Because of your repeat. Yeah, your oops at the beginning. Okay, so 6 months in, here you are seeing Rangers walking around, mm-hmm. and they look different. Now, the only thing I know about a Ranger being outside of it is, the A-Team. They were Rangers, right? I watched the A-Team regularly, and I believe they were Rangers. So that's my input, and they definitely walk different. I mean, Mr. T definitely walked different than anyone else. So talk to me about this. What made these guys different? What made a Ranger different?
I mean, it's kind of like you have a pride about yourself that you don't see normally. It's the Rangers. We have a stanza and a creed, and it's called the Ranger Creed. And inside that Ranger Creed, the stanzas kind of outline your mettle, how you act,
okay,
what you are, and you're expected to be that way every day. So at Fort Benning, you have the command, the regiment, 75th Ranger Regiment, and then you have 3rd Ranger Battalion, which I was in. And it's as simple as, which, I mean, I think it's one of the awesomest things in the world. When you're in the compound, we had fluff and buff. Fluff and buff is your uniform, which is kind of, you fluff it up in the dryer, you buff off your boots, you're going to work. It's your work uniform, whether you're in the field, whether you're hanging out for daily duties. And then when you leave that compound, you're in your spits and starches. Kind of like what you would say your Sunday best.
Okay.
You have your beret on. You have all your badges. You have highly spit shine boots. Everything is pressed. You're neat. Your appearance is of the highest that it can be. So you have the average soldier walking around in, highly shined boots, pressed uniforms, but then you have something that glows walking around.
So what you're telling me is that we had the standard level and then we had the Ranger level, and you guys wouldn't allow yourself to even consider what the rest of the Army considered top notch. To you guys, that was just entry level. You had to be better than the rest when it came to everything. Okay. So we understand a little bit about a Ranger's mindset. They are quickly taught that good is not great. Good is just good.
Yeah. If the Army's running 2 miles, we're running 10 miles.
Got it.
On a single day. So.
All right. So you have to do everything better than anybody else because that's a Ranger.
Yeah.
Okay. How long were you a Ranger? I mean, were you a Ranger then? First of all, talk to me a little bit about becoming a Ranger. I mean, It's not like you just say, hey, I want to be a Ranger, right? You've got to go through probably a Ranger school.
I got to Benning in 99. Got to the unit, I think in January of 2000. I got to my regular Army unit in January of 2000. And then I believe I graduated RIP, Ranger Indoctrine Program, which back then it was a 3-week program. And I mean, basically you had your first week was, I mean, it was hell on wheels. You learned real quick, fast, and in a hurry what it took to be a Ranger. I mean, they would come out and, smoke you up. When I say smoke you up, you're doing push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, running from here to there, anything and everything that they could think of to kind of get your mind rattled.
Okay.
Get you in the right mindset.
So JP, we've all heard of the SEALs training, right? We've heard, everybody knows about that. They make a big deal about it, of course, whether it's movies, whether it's, come on now. And I understand Army, Navy, there's just going to be this, we're going to have that conflict no matter what. Yet we understand, and in our head, we can picture that Navy Budge training opportunity, right? Where is Army Ranger compared to that? I mean, our Army Ranger is going to go through the Navy SEALs training and be like, that was a Sunday, or other way around, or are they pretty equal to each other?
So in that time frame from about 90s to, I would say, I left in 6, we had started a process to change our tiering where the regiment has a job back then, and it was urban combat, which, close quarters battle,
right?
Something's going on. You need sock show soldiers, and we're going to go in and we're going to take care of it in close combat quarters. And then we did airfield seizures, Panama, Grenada. Everybody knows about those. And that was kind of our meat and potatoes of what we did, and we did it really good. And then the leadership, the higher heads, with the jobs we were tasked for, because we only really worked with 2 groups. You just talked about one, the SEALs.
Yep.
And there's another one that's in the Army. That's what we did. We were their heavy hitters. When those small teams went in, that's who they called. That's the only people we worked with. And it started changing us. So we went from that being our main priority to, we are really good at finding these high value targets, these HVTs.
Right.
So they changed our tier to a higher level. Okay. So then it changed from just being close quarters combat, airfield seizures to HVTs. We got tons of different training and technology. A lot of secret squirrel stuff was brought in. It was awesome to watch the change on how we evolved. And some of the guys were still there from Panama and Grenada. We had a couple when I got there. Well, not Panama and Grenada, but Somalia. That were still there from Black Hawk Down era. I'm sure everybody's seen that movie.
And if you haven't, go watch it.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody that goes into the Army could go into Ranger school. You just have to have a mentality that's different that makes you want to go into Ranger school.
Well, the Ranger school is totally different. It's kind of it's not really owned by the 75th Ranger Regiment. It's the advanced leadership school. So, a lot of units in the military as a whole send their personnel to it. And was 4 months, and 3 months was broken. They took a desert phase out of it down in Texas and made it 3 months. So you had your Benning, Darby, which is still in Georgia, which is a mountain phase, or mountain training, mountaineering. and then your swamp phase, which is down in Florida. And
it's a good place for it.
Yeah. And it's pretty much just the basic infantryman tactics and really learning how to suck. And when I say suck, like you're hot all the time or you're cold all the time. You're wet all the time or you're really wet all the time. It's either 112 degrees in Fort Benning, Georgia, or you're so wet from sweat for walking miles upon miles with 80, 100 plus pounds on your back, constantly moving.
They're training you and breaking in, making you the best of the best. So what's a normal day for a Ranger? I mean, just a short answer. What's a normal day for a Ranger when we're not hopefully in combat?
It's early mornings. You leave the gate like a racehorse. You run all the way across post. You come back, get a shower if you have time, because the basic necessities aren't always needed. You know, you may spend your whole day, you just got out of the swamps, come right back in, and you've got time hacks that you got to meet, and those you're not going to fail. Because officers, those that are in charge of you, can always depend on you, from the lowest ranks to the highest ranks, and that's something that's inside those stanzas in the Ranger Creed. Never shall I fail.
Yeah, you could tell the way you said that it was something you've said many, many, many times in many, many, many ways, that those words just kind of rolled off your tongues like that.
Yeah, and it could be anything from, if you're a cook, you know, preparing the meals, which is probably the greatest meals on the face of the planet. Okay. Ranger cooks are hands down, whether they're in garrison, which is here in the States, or they're sitting in a mud hole in the middle of Afghanistan or Iraq, bringing in some of the nicest burgers for a 4th of July meal. And, I mean, they care about each other. Those are the things they want to do, because, I mean, guys are out there humping and beating it up, and you would be surprised if a couple of guys land with some hamburgers, buns, pickles, and some fries.
Well, I know Ben will be really happy to hear about the burger qualities, because that's important when we talk on Win Make Give about our hamburgers and our cheeseburgers, of course. So, okay, there's downtime, and downtime does not sound like downtime at all, right? We're up, we go, we're pushing, we're busting. And then there's active time, right? Then there's actually truly we're on a mission, or we're being deployed into something. Talk about that transition from, normal day to go time when it comes to being a Ranger.
And I'll stay with the cooks, because, I mean, a lot of people get the misconception that they interpret that you're a cook, you're not really doing anything, because that's kind of the big armies. Nothing to beat them up, but a cook could be in the DFAC, which is the dining facility, prepping food, and get a call that they need some extra hitters out there at a training site. So now you just went from being a cook to being a rifleman, an infantryman.
Sure.
Because it's from the highest level to the lowest level. That lowest guy will always complete the mission, though he be the lone survivor. So it's that switch, and that's what you call it, is a switch. You got to be able to turn your switch on, and you got to be able to turn your switch off. So that morning he was in the DFAC cooking, getting stuff ready for the guys. 2 hours later, he's throwing a flashbang grenade into a door and taking down the enemy in a training environment. 2 more hours, he's back in the kitchen serving at the chow line.
Now, I don't know. There's just something. I mean, I'm smiling here as you say it, and it's scary as hell, right? I mean, let's be clear. I don't want to find myself in that situation. I'm obviously too soft for that. Yet it's just amazing to imagine it. And, you see the movies, and of course all the stories you hear, that here the guy is prepping burgers, and next thing you know, he's kicking down a door, flash grenades, and flashbangs and tack. And next thing you know, he's back there finishing grilling the burgers like it was just a normal day. And that's the life of an Army Ranger.
try being that 17-year-old kid that just came in and all of a sudden his boss is yelling at him, "Hey, you got to get it in, buddy."
That's pretty amazing. All right. So that's what we're talking. That's patiently impatient, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's someone who knows to be patient, save your energy, conserve what you can when you can, but boom, you better be ready to go when the time comes, and then be ready to return to being patiently impatient. Ready, waiting for someone to just flip that switch and say, now go.
And we're one of the diverse organizations inside the military in that tier that I was talking about earlier, that it doesn't matter if you're a pack clerk. When I say pack clerk, you're handling all the paperwork, the end processing, a mechanic, an infantryman, a cook. You may be fighting right next to your big boss, the battalion commander. You know, and the Hadith the Dam in Iraq, when we invaded that, you know, our sergeant major, which is the top enlisted guy for the battalion, so he's got 1,500 guys underneath him, you know, fighting right next to you, right next to the lowest ranking guy. Like, get your stuff, let's go.
So there is a hierarchy, of course, and there's leadership, of course, but at the same time, when bullets start flying, now it's everybody's in there and everybody's doing, and there's still going to be a hierarchy because decisions have to be made. Yet there's never going to be a question of the top ranking guy and the lowest ranking guy could be back to back taking care of each other, because that's the camaraderie built within the Army Rangers.
Because you will never fail your comrade.
There you go. You can hear you say that again and again and again. So that has clearly been put into your head. So, all right. How do you know you're winning? I mean, as an Army Ranger, I mean, of course, with the United States military, we're always winning. I mean, we're the United States military when it comes to it, right? So, but how do you know you're winning at your job of being an Army Ranger, JP?
I mean, you're not doing front back goes in the mud and a pouring down rain. You know you're winning. It's, you know, job satisfaction. Honestly,
Tell me more about that.
Feel that you've completed stuff that really matters. When you wake up that morning and you put your shoes or your boots on, depending on the mission for the day, and you go out and nobody gets injured, mission was successful. Your after actions review, which is our AAR, you sit there, and that's one of the biggest things is when you do your after actions review, it's pretty brutal in the regiment. There's no like, oh yeah, guys, we did great. Everybody, you know, hoorah, we're awesome. No, it's, hey JP, you really the pooch on this one. So when we get back, we're gonna fix that. I mean, when I graduated RIP and showed up at the regiment, I spent probably, it was a Friday. My parents were there, my adopted parents. They were like, yeah, we're going to see, blah, blah, blah. They took us into the battalion. We're like, oh, no, boys. Your parents got to go. So they went out and told all parents, we appreciate you coming, but they got to train. So
they're right to it. Wow.
The first 3 days, tying stuff down, making sure my gear was right. And then it would get cut and I'd do it again. But then I was handed those keys to that Ferrari later on and was able to do the same thing and mentor the young guys. And in that mentoring, when you get to that level where your boss says, hey, I need you to take this and make sure these guys are good, you know you've made it. You know you've gotten there. The trust is there. The mentality is there. You're winning.
So it comes full circle in the Army Rangers, because you come in there and they're beating you into it. And then before you know it, you're the one beating the next crew into it, and so on, so that everybody's helping everybody. Because, of course, winning would be that we pass our skills on to that next generation. Because
you got to have them next man up. I mean, and I know y'all have heard that with other guys you've talked to, but it's the next man up. And if your guy fails, then you fail. If you didn't train him the best you could and do the best job you could, because that's what he deserves, because that's what you deserved. And your boss did that for you.
That's awesome. So winning on a regular day is going to be just making it through the training. I mean, you're going to put your head on the pillow at the end of the day and, well, you're probably going to pass out because you're exhausted if you trained correctly as an Army Ranger. You're going to be passing out with satisfaction. You know that you left it all on the field, whether that was the battlefield or the training field that day.
The tank is empty.
Yeah. Right. It's the old comment, right? We want to go skidding into the stop, all the energy we have left. So our tank is empty at the end of the day. Okay. So what are some of the skills now, how long have you been out of the military, JP?
This is actually my 1-year anniversary.
Hey, well, again, thank you for your service and thank you. And we were joking before that this is a retirement beard. So that's 1 year of growth.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. That's impressive. Some people, 1 year of growth and maybe they got a little fuzzy mustache coming along, but this is impressive for that.
Wow.
What are some of those skills you learned in the Army that have helped you continue to win since you've left?
So some of the things I've heard you guys talk about in the past was the practice makes permanent, and perfect practice makes perfect.
Yep.
And that's something that the Ranger Regiment is like. I mean, that's it. You really learn how to impatiently or tactical patience works in that. You learn how to practice, and then those skills you develop while you're kind of growing up turn into permanent skills. But growing up, I didn't have a lot of examples on a lot of the things that, the normal person that comes in to life should have had. My moral compass was all sorts of backwards. My integrity was not the greatest. And then I made a lot of mistakes, like y'all talk about losing. I lost a lot growing up. But the grit that was given to me and some of the mentors that I faced, Dennis Smith was one of my first sergeants. My first real big no I ever did in the military was a moral compass thing. And he scared the crap out of me. I mean, like, he scared the crap out of me. And he's an awesome dude, but he put it to me straight up. And I mean, I was a grown man. Well, I say I was a grown man. I left out of that office with my head between my tail, wondering what the next phase in life was. But it's kind of like Ben says, you identify what you want, and they had identified me as more than what I thought I was. And that grit, that determination, and not making the same mistake twice really has impacted me in life. I think everything that I've done has always been the hard way. Ain't nothing ever come easy for this old boy.
There you go.
And I've made mistakes only once. And because I learned early in that time frame that I was in the 75th Ranger Regiment, not to give up, not to get, down in the dumps, discouraged, because there was the positive, we're going to spank your butt, but now we're going to build you back up. I never had that before. The physical, nobody ever talked to me about building my muscles and my body up. The mental, because that switch that I was talking about earlier, it's really weird how the brain works and how you can turn that on and turn that off.
Sure.
And then later on in life with the TBI injuries and things like that, those things have really helped me kind of not make a bad mistake and become.
All right. So getting into the military, they practice again and again and again and again and again until you get it right. And then they keep practicing, even though once you've got it right, so that it becomes something that's just reflex to you. So one thing I'm hearing from you when it comes to winning is that perfect practice making permanent, right? We want to make sure that we don't practice wrong. we do the right thing again and again and again and again before we know it, it's reflex to make it happen. I heard in there that we might lose, but we never lose the same way twice. And we learn from our losses. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from the things that went wrong in your post-action reports that you were talking about, or even just in training where they sit down and teach you, hey, fix that, do that the right way. And then, of course, it's that switch. It's that training, that practice to turn that switch on, turn that switch off, turn that switch on, turn that switch off, turn that switch off. Oh, we're faking you out. It's still off. But we pretended so that when it's time to go, you can turn that switch on and truly jump into what needs to be done, which is winning at the highest level possible. That's not we're just winning a trophy. That's not we're just winning a game for the day. That's we're winning, and it comes to we're going home alive and protecting those people that we've put our lives out here for.
And when you say that, so one of the stories when you talk about the combat portion.
Oh, okay. He's going to tell a story. Now we got to make sure this is clear, right? So if all of a sudden his lips don't match what he's saying, that's just Dave doing some stuff, because some of these stories were, redacted. But let's see what you got. All right, JP, give us a story.
There's a documentary. It's called War Fighters. There's a book that the company commander at the time had written called Shadow Warriors. Inside this portion, when everybody was sitting at home watching it on TV, and there was the great race between the Marine Corps and the Army, and the generals were like, mine are better. No, mine are better. We're going to get to Baghdad first. There was 134 highly motivated Rangers sitting on a dam in Haditha against about 1,500 highly motivated enemy. Now, when you talk about winning, and that's a winning game of life.
Yeah.
Those 134, myself, I was shot. A guy had taken a grenade. And then we had another guy get blown up. All three of us are still alive. One has become a cook. He was a mortarman, and he is a cook now up in Pennsylvania, Fellbush. Amazing guy. Lost almost 100% of his sight. Oh. And that grit, determination that was raised in us a long time ago allowed for those 134 to get it in that day. And the purpose of that was to blow that down and flood Haditha with the Euphrates River to not allow us to cross into that. But the 134 of us said, nope, ain't going to happen today, boys.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, I could just sit here and probably listen to stories like that. I mean, my dad told me the same stories again and again and again, but yours sound interesting. So that's amazing what you guys went through and the battles that you survived. That's winning, right? That's absolutely winning, because like you said, not only did you come home, not only did you guys survive the injuries that happened in there, not only have you had the grit and determination to continue moving on, you guys actually won and held that dam in that situation, which allowed things to move forward the way they needed to for the military purposes. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm sure there's so many stories that you could share, and I'm sure there's many stories you can't share still at this time. But what I want to say on behalf of all of us at Win, Make, Give, and our audience and everybody taking this one in, JP, is thank you for your service, your fellow Rangers and the service that they've done, the things we don't know that you guys are doing, future Rangers. Hopefully there's somebody who's maybe listening to this who's, however they came across it, saying, you know what, I'm that 16-year-old. I don't have the authority in my life. I'm a troublemaker. But wow, if I could find that opportunity, maybe that would give me something, and it would give me a purpose, and it would give me that opportunity to finally be winning in my life and helping other people at the same time. So we really appreciate you taking the time today and joining us. Now, JP, as you know, in season 2, we've made a commitment to live up to the Win, Make, Give, and we are giving away money based on the number of listens every episode gets. And I wanted to ask you, as our guest on today's interview, who are we going to be donating to? Tell us a little bit about who we're donating to for every listen we can get in the first 30 days on this episode.
Well, if you look over my shoulder,
yes,
that's the Patriot Hunts. It's an organization here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, owned by Ken Bernard. Ken Bernard is a pillar in the community. Owns a cleaning business here, And one day he decided he wanted to give back. So he started the Patriot Hunts organization. It takes wounded veterans, active and retired police officers, EMS workers, firemen, on hunting trips, fishing trips. And it kind of, you've got a lot of guys that kind of sit out there and don't really have anybody to talk to. They're kind of shut down. Well, it gets them in that environment where they kind of open up again. And he is great at getting them to open up and talk to each other. He's great for the healing. I believe Ben is a hunter as well.
Definitely a fisherman.
And it's just, when you get out there and it's just you and your buddies, you kind of go back to those and you're able to heal a little bit. So
that's awesome.
We love what he does. We're very involved with Ken. He's a great guy in the organization, outside the organization. He loves the military. I mean, he loves the green suiters, blue suiters, gray suiters.
So he's okay no matter which branch you were in.
It doesn't matter if you're a cop or whatever you are. He's going to do what he can to make your life better and show that there are people out there that appreciate us.
Well, we appreciate him for what he's doing, because every one of our veterans deserves to be taken care of in a proper way after the service they've given to our country. And we appreciate you for what you did for us, things we know now, things we don't know that you've done for us. And we appreciate you sharing today what winning looks like and how to be patiently impatient and practice having that switch ready to go. JP, on behalf of everybody here at Win, Make, Give, we want to thank you for taking the time and joining us. And folks, make sure you do share this episode. Make sure you're sending this out to as many people as you can. Make sure you're posting it on social media. Make sure you've joined us in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Win, Make, Give, where we talk about the charities that we're posting and giving to, where we'll post the episodes for you to be able to grab and share. And we hope that you'll remember to share this with as many people as possible. And in the meanwhile, until our next episode, as always, do good.